This is FSCloudPort, a cloud-based application for creating and sharing airports for the AeroFly FS2 flight simulator. It is currently at version 1.0 with plenty of things we'd like to improve, but this video will explain what it can do right now. There are well over 500 airports in more than 100 countries that you can download and fly from in AFS2 right now. I'll show you how to do that next, and then I'll show you how to create an airport if you have a login account. So looking at the screen, we can see that there are now actually 674 airports. Looking at the map of the world here, you can see there are different shades of green. Dark green means lots of airports have been built, white means none, and paler shades fewer airports. So if I put the mouse over the US, we have 83 airports, slightly more in Canada, 102, lots in the UK, 137, and so on. But for the example I'm going to show you, I'm going to France because there's a rather nice airport there that has a lot of detail in it. Just 6 airports in France. I will click and launch that. In fact, we can only see 3, and the reason for that is that there are some more airports in the world that are French, legally French I suppose, but they're not in France. So these are the 3 that are up here, and the one I want to show you is Charles de Gaulle. So if I just click on that little windsock flag, incidentally, in other countries you'll see a slightly different shade of windsock flag, and on certain airports the dark orange means lots of buildings. You can see here that Charles de Gaulle's got 4 runways, 229 buildings and 19 static aircraft, so there's a lot of work gone into that. The paler ones may have only had a few buildings added. So if we click to view and download, there's a summary of the airport, a description here that's sort of probably basically Wikipedia, a little Google sort of overview, just the sort of the basics. You can't see all these individually modeled buildings, and in fact you can't even see the runways. But if I just sort of scroll out here, there needs to go a little bit bigger, and you can see the 4 runways. The 4 runways are described here. The runway numbers, the actual length, and I'll just explain what this column is. The way that FSCloudPort works and the way that you can create an airport very quickly without modeling software is that all the 3D modeling's been done already. There were hundreds, in fact at one point there were hundreds of thousands until we found a quicker method of runways and buildings that have been built in a modeling tool, converted to AFS2 format, stored on a file server. And what happens when you build an airport here is that you say where the runways are, you say where the buildings are, and the application goes and retrieves the appropriate model from the server. But it isn't always a perfect fit for the runways. There's a bit of an approximation. You know, we'd have almost infinite number of runways if we sort of had it down to the nearest millimeter. So at the moment you can see here that this 9L runway actually 2722 meters long in reality. The model slightly bigger, 2788, so 66 meters longer and just 3 meters wider. So that's the explanation for the slight differences between the model that you will download and see in the simulator versus the real one. Let's go and download this runway. There are 2 files I need to download. If you're in the US, you only see 1 file. You don't need the XREF Global because the simulator comes with the XREF standard IPAX models already in there, already available, but they're not available outside the US without this extra download. So we'll do the airport first. So that was pretty fast. It may be a bit slower if your internet connection's running a bit slowly, but there's 1 zip file that's been created with a lot of objects in. I'm just going to stick it at the top level of my AFS2 folder. Just save that. And let's go and grab the XREF Global. So this needs to be done just once. You'll see it on every airport page outside the US, but you only need to do it once for non-US airports. So I'll go and save that as well. So that's a slightly larger file, 68 megabytes. So we'll have that in a few seconds. So what I'll do is I will go and jump to the location of the download. We've got a few seconds more, haven't we? Yep, there they are. All right, I will just select that XREF. I'll select that zip. I will just do cut and scenery, paste. Now then, I'm going to put the XREF global into the XREF folder, and I'm going to extract it to XREF global. Okay, so we have to get the levels right here. So we have scenery, then we have XREF, then we have XREF global, and then we have all the files we want. Okay, remember that's a one-off. Now then, we have the LFPG zip. So we're going to put that into places. And in fact, that was France, wasn't it? So what I should really do is make a folder called FR. And I will put all my French airports into there. And now I'm going to extract to LFPG slash, so it's going to create a folder, LFPG. Okay. So now under the French folder, we have the LFPG folder, and we have all of our object files. Okay, now I don't have the simulator on this particular machine, but if I was to fly this now, it would all be there. And that's how you download an airport. Okay, let's create an airport now. I'll go back to France and back to world. Okay, part 2. Now we are making an airport. And, well, I notice we're also up to 677 airports now. So somebody's made one or two while I've been making the video. We need to log in. That's the first thing. And in order to log in, we need an account. At the moment, the way you get an account is to send me a private message via a conversation in the IPAX forum. And so here's a tab for that. You would click the little conversation button and the plus. And then if you type spit 40, you can request here a password and a login. Just one thing to say there is that we are limiting the number of logins for a little while, just to make sure that the sort of administration doesn't get too out of hand in these sort of few days after launching it. So the first 30 people who ask for an account can have one. After that, there'll be a pause while we just make sure we're on top of things. So that's how you get a password. From the conversation, I will know your IPAX forum identity, but please send me your Steam ID as well, because we include that in the information we store with each airport at the moment. Right, back to FSCloudPort, and it's time for me to log in. So I have my login, it's remembered that already. I need to accept the T's and C's, which are sensible things like don't put anything silly or inappropriate in the description of an airport and so on. And let's log myself in. Okay, I'm in. Time to create an airport. I think I'll go to France again because I saw there were so few airports, and I think Lyon would be a good place for an airport. So now I'm logged in. When I click on the map and there isn't a flag there, it says, would you like to create an airport there? I don't need to be too exact on where I click. You'll see in a second why that is. But yes, I will make an airport there. And it's going to be Lyon. Now I've pulled up Wikipedia already, and I can see here that we've got Lyon Saint-Exupéry Airport. Let me copy that stuff there. I'll paste it here. We can get the ICAO code, which I'll put up there. We can put the long name for the airport here. And I think a super short name to go up here, because that name appears on the navigation. So if you have a lot of airports in close proximity, then the navigation map in AFS2 could get very busy. So let's keep that very short. Also, let's take out the accented character, because that can make things go a bit strange. I will trim that down, and I think I will take that out as well, and I think that's probably enough. So there's just a brief description for anybody who doesn't know the airport. Okay, now we wonder where the airport is. We can scroll around, but a quick way is to use this particular icon and type in Lyon Airport. Hit go, and there we go. Right, let's go through the icons in the menu at the top. If you put the mouse over, you can see that they give a description anyway, but I'll just talk you through them. The first one is more for modeling purposes, and but you need to enter it anyway with this. It's where if somebody is making a 3D model, a bespoke model, and they need to make sure it aligns with the photo scenery. So you tend to pick a particular place that you can distinguish and line things up on. So I'm just going to, I click that particular icon, it drops on the map in the center. I'm going to drag it to a place that I'll always be able to find and pinpoint. That's done. Generally you don't need to worry about that, in fact. Adding the tower though, now that's something we need to get right. Now I had a look before, there it is. A trick for finding these, by the way, is I've made a tab here as if you, it's the Jeppesen maps. If you just type in Jeppesen and then LFLL, you find a PDF like this, and then you can see that's how I found the tower there. So the tower is, where's it gone? It's up here. Okay. So I'm doing a lot of click, hold, drag, zoom in, zoom out with the scroll wheel. You'll find you're doing that a lot. So let me put the tower right there. Okay, it's on the map, but what kind of tower? So now what I want to do is I click and I hold for a few seconds, and I get a choice of tower. I can see the dimensions as well. So this is a big airport, a big tower. Let's have that one. Okay, let's have some parking places. I think we will have a parking place here and a parking place here. I'm just going to do a quick job on these, so just the two for now. So I'll just drag it so it's out of the way of the picture underneath. We want to line it up with the aircraft that's already there. So the trick is to right click, and you can see it moves to the right. If I control right, I jump by about 25 degrees. A single click's about 5 degrees. So that's that one. I think control click, and then left click takes me left or anti-clockwise by 5 degrees. Okay, so that's a couple of parking places. So you can have as many of those as you want. The next thing I'm going to do is add the runways. So again, we click at the top, immediately a runway drops onto the map, and I drag the end points of the runway to the end points on the map. I zoom in, and then I place that marker dead center at the end of the threshold stripes. I need to number it. It's 36L. The way to do that is double click, change this to 36L. Pappy on the right, I could say Pappy on the left. You can see the color, the red blob change. Close that, that's one end done. Right, let's go to the other end. Drag the marker all the way up. Zoom in with the scroll wheel, get really zoomed in, and that looks like the end point there. That's 18R. Double click, 18R. Let's keep the Pappy on the right this time. I'm not quite sure how you find out exactly where they are. If I zoomed in and looked, I could perhaps work it out. Okay, so that's one, that's the long runway. Let's have a second runway, click and drop. Let's do a quick job now. Now, how about the width? These widths, are they right? They actually look pretty good. The width defaults to 45 meters. And let me zoom out. Now here we go, here's a runway that is a little wider than that. What I can do is, well, there's a question about what we align to, but I think I'll go all the way to the tarmac. If I left click, it widens the runway by 1 meter. So it keeps it centered, widens it by 1 meter. So let's go with that, that's done. And a right click would narrow it. At the moment, even though we've given this a runway number, the model won't show that number. Equally, it won't show the landing markings or the white lines at the edge. But these are all things that we intend to add over time. In fact, I think I need to go slightly further with this point here. Because when the model is created, there is a short gap between the end of the tarmac and where the runway stripes are. Okay, so that's runways. Now let's put some static aircraft on just to give this a bit more reality and a feeling of reality. We have some aircraft here that look like they would be nice to have in 3D. Single click, and let's get the alignment right first. Control click, quickly send it round to the right orientation. A few more clicks, that looks about right. Now that isn't a C172, that is, I'm not quite sure, but I will go for an A343. You might know better than me. Click again, let's have, now it's remembered it was an A343. I think a control click, quickly get our alignment right, and then a single click, 5 degrees, that's good. Now what else do we have? Do we have any light aircraft? Okay, I was jumping around a little bit there. In fact, I was trying and failed to find any light aircraft that I could place using the static aircraft tool. So let's give up on that, because I think you've already seen how that works, that we can drop a static aircraft and then we can change its shape to its model to something else. What we need to do next though is add a building. Now again, I'm going to just do something quick for the sake of this video, and I'm going to put a building where these three are. To add a building, I click on the building icon and there it lands on the map. The dead center of the building is shown by the marker, and if I zoom in a bit more to show more clearly, the actual footprint in square meters is shown by the blue box. Now that's way too small, so we need a bigger building. I click and I hold and I see all the options. So the yellow one, that was the one that was dropped by default. We need something quite a bit bigger than that. I'm going to go for a larger factory, 60 by 60 meters. Let's see how that lines up. Now that might have to do for this video. This is where you can spend a little bit more time matching things. And I now need to rotate that building. Now the front is kind of to the south of this. I'm going to click and get a pretty good approach. I can drag the marker and then the building will follow, or what works better in cases like this is I drag the building, drag the blue. Okay, we need another left click for another 5 meters. Now I need more accuracy here, so I'm going to go for a shift click and do 1 degree rotations. Another shift, I think that's pretty good, and that's not a bad approximation. Now this is a compromise. We don't have this exact building design, but we've got something that looks okay. Now what works quite well here is that you can combine these and put them together. That's how we're going to get a better size. So if I click again, I get same again. I need to get the rotations right, so I'm right clicking and I need a shift right click just to get this exactly right. Now these overlap quite well. FS2 seems to just merge them together without too much trouble, so we can do that and then we'll have a third one. So right click, get it quite close, drag it, shift right click, and that's going to be our building. Okay, that's a building done. Okay, that's the other building done. It's not quite as good a fit as the previous one. In fact, if I had spent more time going through the example buildings and getting used to them, I could perhaps have done something slightly better. But that's how you add buildings. If I zoom out now, we can just recap. We have 2 buildings added, 2 static aircraft, 2 runways, a couple of parking places, and now I can save my airport. And if I want to, I can immediately download it. There it is. That is how you make airports in FSCloudPort. And I look forward to seeing what you can create.